This is Mike Musto, and today on Road Testament, we're going to be talking about a subject that's near and dear to my heart. It's pro touring. It's a facet of the car hobby that basically takes old cars, new technology, puts them together, and makes something that's, well, a masterpiece. Today we're going to be talking about this 1969 Dodge Charger that's behind me that really blends the best of both worlds into something that, well, you just might not see every day. Today on Road Testament, we're going to be talking with Pete Filipatos, owner and operator of Auto Dynamics out on Long Island. Auto Dynamics is a high-end audio and video retailer, and they do everything from installing high-end stereos and video equipment and everything from, hell, Pintos to Lamborghinis and Ferraris to, I don't know, full-on sound systems in your house, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Today we're going to be talking about Pete's 1969 Pro Touring Dodge Charger, a car that, in my opinion, is one of the nicest Pro Touring cars currently in the country.
Basically, a 69 Dodge Charger.
Okay.
And then we outfit it with the latest gear, pretty much the modern technology stuff that you would find in a new car. You can go into a new car showroom and actually purchase it. So basically, it's blending of the new world stuff into the old cars. The body lines, the sexiness, the curves, the cuts, the rawness is really what appealed to me on the car.
Okay.
What didn't appeal to me was the fact that when I did get the car didn't stop, didn't turn, didn't brake, didn't do anything really well. It just looked good. If it had a nice paint job on it, it would just look good.
With most Pro Touring cars, people get an idea of what they want. They say either I want a Charger, or I want a Camaro, or I want an El Camino. Probably not too many El Caminos, but that's what they say. Then they'll lay out a plan. I want this drivetrain, this engine, or this, this suspension, and so on and so forth. Did you have that plan in your mind before you started to build this car? Did you know exactly where you wanted to go, or was it kind of an evolution over time?
Well, I had an idea that I wanted a car that I could use every day, that I could take on long trips.
Okay.
That wouldn't fatigue me when driving it. It wouldn't be obnoxious, but yet have that capability of the rawness of the muscle power and the muscle carness, and you wouldn't lose it.
Okay.
But yet have the finesse and the luxury of a modern car. You kind of fail to realize what amenities a new car will give you as opposed to an old car. Power windows, power door locks, the air conditioning, a nice radio, to a quiet ride.
Just for those out there, this is not the standard engine compartment of a stock 69 Dodge Charger, just so you know. In fact, it's got absolutely nothing to do with the standard engine compartment. So, Pete, what do we got, man?
Well, we have a late model 6.1 Hemi that's got it's got some performance upgrades to it. We have a cold air ram air intake right here that actually catches fresh air from the front. We have air conditioning. We have Hydro Boost also.
Now, everything under this engine bay is pretty much 100% customized. I mean, from the wiring harness to the AC lines to how you ran everything. I mean, this is really 100. This is your vision of what the perfect 69 Charger is, correct?
Absolutely, sure.
Okay. You got things like this, like the strut tower brakes, okay, which is gonna, because on big cars like this, one of the keys is that if you want them to handle, you got to stiffen them up. You have to do the suspension. You have to, subframe connectors and things like that. And one thing that people should know about Mopars is that these are unibody cars.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, for
These
instance,
cars really flex a lot.
They flex a lot.
And they did flex a lot back then.
But yeah, well, if you look at like a Chevelle, okay, or a Camaro, they're a body-on-frame, which means there's an external frame and then the body sits on top of that. On Mopars, that's not the way they are. It's one big piece, okay? Which means when this thing went over bumps in stock form, things would shift.
There's all sorts of chassis stiffening that's done to the whole platform. My vision really was to not alter a lot of things visually to the novice.
Okay.
But if you really started dissecting it, you would see a lot of upgrades that were done to the chassis and actually to every part of the car. This will idle at 1,000. It will always idle the same way. If there ever is a question about it, we can actually plug in and actually diagnose it. With an OBD2 connector.
Okay.
That's the beauty of it, really. It's really simplified.
So you really did meld the best of both worlds.
Absolutely.
You put paddle shifters in a 42-year-old muscle car.
Yeah.
That's not something that's a common mod. In fact, I think this is probably one of the only Pro Touring cars I've ever seen with paddle shifters. Did you do that because you didn't want to put a stick in the car and you wanted the drivability of the paddles, or what? Talk to me. What do you?
Well, I tell you, I work in a lot of exotics, and after you being in one of those, and you see how the paddle shifters actually work,
Right.
and the fact that because this transmission is electronic,
Right.
that we can incorporate the paddle shifters in it, it was kind of simple choice for me to do it. I can run in different modes actually. I can run into like a street performance mode, or I can actually run into a lazy mode. You know, so it shifts like your grandma's car.
You put new seats, but they've been recovered and they look similar to the old style seats.
I think when you do a Pro Touring car, there's a fine line, a very fine line that you can choose on what you change and how you change it. This particular car, I kind of kept true to its heritage.
Okay.
So what I did is I changed the seats to modern seats.
Okay.
But I went back and I repatterned them after the original pattern. I would say every inch of this car
It has been touched
has been touched and massaged at one aspect or another.
Right.
Whether it's from the gas tank to the fuel lines to the shifters to the braking system, and I tell you, Mike, it never ends.
Yeah, no, I know.
It never ends. You know, my eye's always looking at a catalog or a different part, and I want to adapt it to this car.
I know.
It's nice to have an older car. When you start smelling like an old car or perform like an old car, I mean, you wouldn't use a rotary phone at home anymore.
That's
so
right.
Why drive an old car?
Yeah, I totally agree, 100%, man. Thanks, dude. Thanks for coming on.
You got it.
Ow, we're living in the fast lane, baby.